Hello, I'd like to deposit this to checking.
Fate is a fickle master.
What?
The future is uncertain.
Okay, and what's my account balance?
The horizon is cloudy. I see a long, treacherous voyage filled with great peril.
Look, can I just get a deposit slip or something?
A fortune bank teller. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I see a yellow-eyed serpent and a low APR.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
This is the worst of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz podcast.
Stugatz, I feel like such a crazy person as I'm watching some of the things happening in sports, as I see Alabama last night proclaimed a bogus national champion. I watch everything happen last night. Keep in mind, our show, our sensibilities, we like shaking the cages on what are the established conventional wisdoms. The conventional wisdom is that ESPN told you last night that that game was for the championship. They have a committee to do these things. They pour a lot of money into the televised event. They buy all of the watchdogs and give us megacasts so that we could feed our egos and not criticize the product. But the game result last night is only perfect for UCF to declare itself co-national champions tonight, because the team that won the championship allegedly last night didn't even have to play a conference championship game. And The team they beat last night was beaten by the team that UCF beat in the bowl, and UCF is undefeated and Alabama is not.
You should still be left with a little doubt because of that reason. They haven't played, Alabama has not played UCF. Now, UCF finished 6th in the AP poll that came out, the final standings came out today. They finished 6th, but Alabama never played UCF. Alabama lost to Auburn. Georgia at least had a second opportunity to beat Auburn and avenge that loss. So if Georgia had won, I don't think UCF has much of an argument today. But Alabama did, and they do.
Everything that happened last night says to you not much of a difference between the two teams that were playing for the championship.
Correct.
But there was only one undefeated team in the country, and that team, by the rules of the system, was denied the chance. In a system where Nick Saban already has all the advantages, he's now got a rule advantage in that nobody can come out of nowhere to beat his team, because he can get to the championship game without even playing in a conference game, and UCF can't even get to the championship game being undefeated and having the best resume today that any team has. And what I am telling you is you would have a legitimate argument. This network should be arguing today because this construct is so bogus, and we created it. We paid for it. We paid for this construct, this fake champion and this fake system of injustice where we're using all of these bodies to pay the CEOs. ESPN has a made-for-TV event where they just crown a champion and everyone accepts it. And what I'm telling you is this year it's never been more wrong. Never once has it been more wrong. ESPN's got it wrong. The country's got it wrong. The writers have got it wrong. Alabama doesn't have a better resume than UCF, and they should be declared co-champions. They really should, because the system's bogus. It's just a construct that you're respecting, and you don't need to respect it just because a committee tells you to.
That's going to sound crazy to people, Dan, because of what Alabama just did. Just beating Clemson and Georgia the last 2 weeks. That's going to sound crazy. That's
fine. It can sound all crazy all you want. What I'm telling you is Alabama's resume next to, they beat the same number of teams that played in bowl games. UCF and Alabama. Now, today, both of them, you look at the resumes, one of them's got a loss, one of them's undefeated. I'm telling you, if I switch the resumes, you'd be telling me, if I switch these resumes, you'd be telling me that UCF is if I didn't tell you who was involved, I just showed you resumes and not teams. I didn't tell you it was Nick Saban. I didn't give you the uniforms. I just showed you resumes.
Right.
Your champion would be UCF today. And if Alabama had that resume, you'd be making the argument on behalf of Alabama.
Dan, I don't agree with you personally. You could put the resumes side by side. And that's fine without telling me who they are. No, Dan, hold on a second.
You're taking the last two games and only the last two games.
I'm also UCF had one big win against Auburn. I mean, maybe you want to call USF.
They beat Memphis, a ranked team, twice. That's a bowl team. They beat them twice. That's a bowl team with a good veteran quarterback.
I understand that, but I think people forget that they beat Florida State. Alabama did at the beginning of the year with that healthy quarterback when they were preseason top 5 in the country.
They injured FSU. FSU had 6 losses this year. All I'm saying, look, you don't have to agree with my argument. You're welcome to disagree with my argument.
Thank you.
All I'm saying is that the argument on behalf of an outsider champion has never been better than it is today. The best argument in the history of making arguments on behalf of questionable champions in college football, today the best argument can be made for UCF that they deserve this co-championship, this bogus championship just made by ESPN, a regional champion, an SEC champion. That's what was crowned yesterday. Today, more than ever, UCF can make the argument that they are legitimately co-champions, and it should be officially sanctioned by the people who sanction these things, because they've sanctioned everything else with money and dollars and committees, and all of it's bogus. We're just agreeing to the construct.
Your argument works if you're just paying attention to the fact that under the L column they have a 0 and Alabama had a 1, but the Memphis win, get that out of here. Number 25 in the nation. You want to say they have 2 top 25 wins? Fine. Then count the LSU and Mississippi State wins, which were more impressive than that Memphis win. If you're
South Florida could have beaten any team in the country this year. The South Florida team that Central Florida beat, South Florida could have beaten Charlie Strong's team in South Florida. I'm telling you, this is just regional biases and nonsense that people do not know. I told you at the beginning of the season, USF has pros on that field. Those are men. Those are men that look like number 78 from Georgia last night. Men look like that Alabama defense.
We're not disagreeing with you that they're talented teams, both USF and UCF. We're not disagreeing with that. There is talent all over the field on both of those teams. What I'm saying is that if you flip-flop the schedules, do you know what Alabama would do to those opponents that UCF played? Mm-hmm. And I don't think UCF is undefeated if they play Alabama's
Here's
schedule.
what I'm saying to you about the reputation of the SEC, though. Texas A&M's not better than Memphis. All those teams, those Mississippi State's not better than South Florida. This is what I'm telling you. This is uniform bias. It's history bias. What I'm telling you is all these coaches who are now, all the dirty coaches who are coming down here to recruit Florida, all of them. Florida now, we've got all the best recruiters in Florida. What I am telling you is Scott Frost just got that Nebraska job because all of these guys have figured out what can be had in Florida. And that UCF team and that USF team, those teams look to me like Clemson and Alabama this year. And the only thing keeping them from looking like that is the fact that there's uniform bias. That you just see Nick Saban on the sideline and you see Alabama's uniforms. Man, UCF was the best offense I saw in the country this year. In the country, they're the best offense I saw. They can move the ball on anybody.
Listen,
they were so much better at offense than Alabama was this year.
You can't sit here today and say there's not a little doubt because Alabama never had to play UCF. You can't. You simply...
I'm saying there's never been more doubt is what I'm saying. That if you legitimately want to examine this doubt, never in the history of championships has there ever been more legitimate doubt of, wait a minute, I'm not sure there's that much difference between those two teams.
But people at Kirk Herbstreit, I've heard him say this a number of times, they're going to say to you, Dan, that the reason UCF didn't get in, if UCF plays a Wisconsin early in the season and beats them, then the momentum starts to steamroll. And if you go undefeated, there's a good chance you make it to the Final Four. They're going to throw the schedule in your face.
That's fine. But what I'm saying is that by rule, NFL teams don't get to choose their schedule. What I'm saying is by all of the system's rules are working to keep a legitimate champion from the chance at the game. You can criticize their schedule. I will not dispute that. What I'm telling you is they don't have a chance to get in the game because this bogus system by rule keeps them out of it. And the only undefeated team in the country this year isn't even allowed to play for it. And what I'm saying is we're crowning a bogus champion today if there's not doubt about whether Central Florida should be the co-champion today.
Yeah, but part of the NFL schedule is locked in. You play the team that corresponds with where you finish in your division. You play those other teams in your conference. So that's why you always see Patriots, Steelers.
I know, but Mike, and we do all this stuff. We want to change Western Conference and Eastern Conference. We do it in basketball. That's the accepted construct there. What I'm telling you is that in college football, the accepted construct is flimsier than any of our other championship deciders. Where
that's fair.
We just decided. ESPN just decided a committee is going to decide.
Right.
Imagine if the NFL allowed a committee, and we talked about this last week. I'd like it. I would like it if we had this in professional football to allow a committee to decide who the 8 playoff teams are, so we could get the Titans up on out of here. Like, just get the Titans out of the playoffs. You tell me, have a committee decide these are my power rankings. I'd prefer to do it that way. But
they're taking injuries into account, all of it. Yes,
I prefer. But the way that they're doing it right now in the pros is the accepted construct that all of us agree is fair enough. What I'm telling you is the one that we're doing in college football is the most unfair of all of them. And you just had it proven because you were denied a legitimate championship team and championship game because the rules and the committee and the money of ESPN simply said so.
Very passionate this morning.
Weirdly.
It looks like they got the message, though. They have Stanford scheduled 2 years from now, so they're doing a better job scheduling. There's a lot of merit to what Stugatz is saying. You want to get people's attention. Do what Fresno State did years ago, and you schedule an Oregon State, and you make an impression.
Or Boise State.
Boise State did it every year. They played someone.
I know, but this is all about, you want to do the Middle American analogy that Colin Cowherd fans would like. This is all about, right now, all we're rewarding in college football is inherited money. We're making it really hard for people to get to Alabama's privilege. We're keeping Central Florida from being able to get, what gets
Clemson got there.
What gets hand-me-down, in a big conference, Clemson got there. But what gets hand-me-down are certain disadvantages that makes perfect from UCF not even be good enough.
But if UCF keeps growing, they're going to just be complicit in all of this because they'll join a bigger conference.
That's right. The established construct will get even more mutated, and then somebody else will be denied.
Dan Le Batard.
America's fastest growing sports show.
Stugatz.
Because when you start from zero and you have one viewer, you're growing fast.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio.
So, if you did not watch the regional championship of the SEC decided last night, this is what happened. Alabama had a player seem like he had a seizure on the sidelines. Alabama had a player fighting with other players on the sideline. Alabama scored 0 points in the first half. Alabama benched its quarterback. Alabama, in an overtime game, had the game lost because they were in a 2nd and 26 situation. Alabama is champion again. If you can figure out how all of that happened, you're better at this than I am. Alabama is champion again just because basically Alabama said so.
Did you mention missing the game-winning kick at the end of regulation?
I didn't even mention that. That's right. And missed the game-winning kick in regulation, endured a 51-yarder from Rodrigo Blankenship, who's kicked 68 before in practice.
Yeah. It's Blankenship, and that's a fine, Dano.
What did I say, Blankenship?
Yeah, it's the second time. I let it slide the first time in the local hour because we're all tired today because we were working late last night, but,
But if you're going to mess up his name, I prefer it that way than what you did last night.
Right. I made the ship sound a little bit different than it does. That's fine. I'll pay the fine. Rodrigo Blankenship is a weird name. Guillermo, put it on the poll. Rodrigo Blankenship, the wispy mustache, glasses-wearing kicker for Georgia. Ask the audience at Le Batard Show on Twitter if that's a weird name.
We're concerned about you. We have an issue with you because you're supporting UCF in a way. Who doesn't want your support, by the way? They don't deserve you and your passion because you tried to partner with them. ESPN tried to partner with UCF, and they wanted nothing to do with us. And now you're giving them, essentially what you're doing is you're giving them their publicity for free. They don't have to do anything. They rejected every single offer we made to do parades up there, to hand them a national championship trophy. You've been singing their praises the entire year. They wanted nothing to do with this radio show or ESPN, and I don't think they deserve your support. I don't.
We made 4,000 T-shirts, 4,500 T-shirts. We've got a giant trophy for them here. We were negotiating with their athletic department that was on board to celebrate the co-national champion. Because we really could do this. I know there was an Auburn team that went undefeated about 15 years ago, but that Auburn team, who was it? Jason Campbell, Ronnie Brown, who else? They had another running back there. Cadillac was the running back.
Yeah.
That team went undefeated and didn't get to play for the championship because the two teams that were playing for the championship also were undefeated all season. What I'm telling you is there's only one undefeated team in the entire country.
Right.
This is much easier. There's one undefeated team, and it was denied a chance to play for the championship.
It's time to pivot.
Yeah.
You obviously haven't been rejected much in your life. This is what you do when you get rejected, Dan.
Right.
Now you start spinning it like you're too good for them.
Exactly.
You never wanted them. Who did they play? You're not good enough for us. We're the biggest show in the world.
I mean, I just told you.
Your problem.
Right. I just told you to dial it back. And what do? You dial it up. I mean, enough.
Okay, so you guys, but wait, you guys want me
enough of UCF.
So you guys want me to be petty because
UCF's not that hot.
Yes,
please.
Yes,
we can do better than UCF.
I mean, seriously.
God.
Bigger fish to fry.
UCF.
I mean, jeez.
All right.
UCF's not going to age well.
All right, so it just peters out here.
Frost is gone anyway. They're done.
Okay.
It's over for UCF.
All right, so we limp away with our 4,000 T-shirts and our very heavy-made trophy there, 2018 national champion. We just limp away and that's it? We don't fight for this anymore?
Don't mention that we did any of that.
But I want to be Dan Quixote.
No, man, they don't deserve
But they don't
deserve
right.
us, please.
Be human like the rest of us.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Out of here. You don't want me? Fine.
I don't want you.
Anyway.
Oh, so you guys are receiving this as I sound like I'm groveling, like I'm outside the window with the woman who has scorned me and she doesn't want anything to do with me, and I sound like I'm begging still for her approval.
Holding your trophies and your T-shirts.
No is no, Dan.
Exactly.
I am John. I am John. No is no. I am John. That's a different thing. That's totally different. John Cusack. I'm outside, holding the trophy outside of the window. But no, that was Cusack was desperate, but that was actually romantic. You guys are saying I'm pathetic.
Yes.
I'm pathetic, pleading with UCF and pleading on behalf of UCF.
You know what? That's not romantic, by the way. Can we just say that? In movies, that's romantic, and people say, oh, my God, I wish that happened. If that happened to you in real life, you would call the police.
All right, put that
no
on
one
the
wants
poll.
that.
Put that on the poll, Guillermo, at Lebitard Show. If someone did to you what John Cusack did to that woman and say anything, would you call the police in real life?
Demand once more money.
Right. I think it's going to be lopsided. I really do.
So that's a stalker? That's not romantic. That's a stalker.
Don Lebitard.
I can make the argument that Calvin Johnson's the third best receiver ever.
Easily, yes.
Not easily, Stugatz.
No, you easily could. Look at the numbers. Easily could.
Stugatz.
Like, your contribution to this conversation was just an easily.
I was trying to, support you.
Keep your support.
Listen, you made a statement. I was supporting it with easily. That's what you do for a friend. What does my friend do back to me? Criticizes my support.
This is the Dan Lebitard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Dan Lebitard Show. Up here via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Terrell Davis, Hall of Famer, going to be there at noon Eastern. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. Here's your SportsCenter update. In the final AP poll of the college football season, Alabama finished number 1, of course. Georgia number 2. UCF is ranked number 6.
Unbelievable, man.
That is.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, 6th is...
But they got 4 number 1 votes.
But, Mike, they should... Listen, whether you agree with Dan or not on number 1, they should be higher than number 6.
That's so ridiculous. Like, it's
they beat
just
Auburn.
stupid. I mean, sports is run by dumb people. I'm going to just say it, and I'll get into it in a second. All of sports is run by dumb people.
The Westgate Las Vegas Superbook, they're not dumb. On Monday, they installed the Crimson Tide. Enough, man. As the 2018 favorites at 3-1. They are a 3-1 favorite to repeat as national champions. Georgia is next at 9-2. Texas, Wisconsin, Auburn, and Miami all are 25-1. And finally, Liam Gallagher says he reached out to his former Oasis bandmates about a reunion, but says they told him they weren't up for it. This comes on the heels of Noel Gallagher's recent comments about how he wouldn't want to reunite with Oasis because it would be undignified to be a stadium rocker when he's 50. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Follow me down this path here, Stugatz, because I want to make sure that people understand on the front end. They think I am a Nick Saban hater because he left the Miami Dolphins many years ago, was an average NFL coach. And on his way out of town, I ripped him mercilessly on every ESPN platform, calling him a vacuum cleaner salesman. And I have regrets about how I handled that entire time, but I called him a lot of names because he was always demanding the discipline of others and not himself. And he wasn't very nice to people when he was in Miami.
Right. It was so unlike you. I remember thinking at the time when you were doing it, wow, that's something I would do.
I have my regrets about how I handled that whole situation. So let me explain to you, the audience here, how much respect I have for the job that this person has done atop college football, where he is always in the games that matter. However, having said that, and I don't think you can do, no matter how you feel about Nick Saban, like him, dislike him, think he's dirty, whatever you want to think, you must respect his life's work effort. Like you cannot see what keeps happening here and not respect it, no matter how many biases you have.
He's 5 national championships in 9 years.
But hold on. It's not just 5 national championships in 9 years. I feel like you just had your window to get them because they've done that in 9 years without quarterbacks.
Right.
Now my guess is the quarterbacks are going to want to go over there and play with those guys that only need a quarterback because they can win championships on defense and special teams. Like Alabama's defense and special teams, if they didn't even have an offense, would be ranked higher than UCF.
Correct. Yes.
Like if their team was just special teams and defense, Guillermo, put this on the poll. If Alabama's team was just defense and special teams, would that team be in the top 5?
Who plays offense? You just pick some guys off
whatever.
of defense.
You don't have
teams?
offense. No.
Okay, no, there's no offense.
There's no offense.
Okay.
I still think that we'd rank them in the top 5. We'd say, yes, they're that good.
Wait, so if you punt the ball to Alabama in this situation and they don't score, you get the ball back when you tackle them?
No, what I'm saying is Alabama would just have a punter and field goal kickers. That would be their offense. And just let the defense and special teams do the rest, and they will pin you in your area, and then you'll kick a couple of field goals. All you're allowed for offense is field goal kickers and special teamers.
Nick Saban has more national titles than all other FBS coaches combined.
Okay, but now I want to deconstruct this as everyone sits here today and talks about this stupid argument. Is Saban the best? Yes, maybe, no. This is what I want to talk about today, is the number of advantages he now has. The guy who we already believe to be Belichick, better and smarter than everyone else. And I'm not thinking it's because he's that smart. I'm thinking it's because football is run by a whole lot of dumb people that we assign smart traits just because they're the general of the dumb army.
He's the smartest of the dumb army?
Nick Saban is running this sport, at least in part, because he can be smarter than everyone else. Usually in these billion-dollar industries, you can't be quite this much smarter than everybody else.
Some of these advantages you're about to get to, though, because you're right, he does have all the advantages. He's earned them. I mean, he created these advantages.
But this is what I'm saying is that now is when you have to fear the monster.
Right.
Because now he's been doing this without quarterbacks. He's been lopsiding the game because he has so many advantages. He gets all of the recruits that he wants. When Nick Saban lands in his helicopter, and I've told you the story before, Nick Saban won the championship and was on the plane flying out of Miami, making blueprint plans with his agent. Now's the time to capitalize. Get me millions of dollars for my facilities. Now, right now. And he's probably doing that last night. As soon as that pass gets made last night, he's probably doing it again. More advantages. Get me more advantages. And Alabama will, because he's the CEO and he gets all of the players. And when he lands on your campus in his helicopter, it means something that it doesn't mean when Kirby Smart does it, or anyone else in the sport. He is the CEO of college football landing on your campus to get your kid, and that mother is going to be swayed by that man's very presence arriving on her doorstep.
No doubt. And the kid, Dan, the kid's going to sit there and go, wow, look at all this guy puts people in the NFL. Right. And when they get there, they're good.
Well, here's the other element. Now this is where it snowballs. If you want to get into the business of professional football from the inner cities, there is one place you go. One in the country. There aren't two. There is one that is a factory for football where they've got the best CEO and he's got the magic gifts that will get everyone to the pros. Even if they don't have a quarterback, he will win the championship and he will get your kid to the pros.
Other schools can do it, to be clear. He gives you the best chance, the best percentage.
What I'm saying, other schools can do it, but nobody's got now the reputation he does. Right. And what I'm saying is when he arrives there, he gets the kids that he wants. Maybe there's some margin for error. Some kid wants to play where his dad played, or one kid wants to play where he's home. There's a margin for error. But on an unscientific thing, he gets all of the guys that he wants. An enormous advantage. Lane Kiffin told us every time they stand on a practice field, he could see our guys are better than their guys. So Nick Saban has all the built-in advantages that you could possibly have over everyone in the sport. And then on top of that, the rules support by committee and SEC bias that turns a game between two SEC teams yesterday into the championship game sanctioned by Disney, while a team gets totally left out that doesn't have any of the advantages that Nick Saban has. UCF will never even get to test Alabama because all of the rules of the system also favor Alabama. He's got all of the advantages, and from that place, a lot of people could succeed. Once you get it to that place, how Pete Carroll succeeded from there, sustaining it is difficult, but he's built a monster that I don't see how it comes undone. I don't see how all of these dynasties have an expiration date. How is this one going to come undone? Because they're more powerful than they've ever been, and now they're going to start getting quarterbacks when they got a freshman quarterback playing out there who looked like Nick Saban, that's the kid who beats Nick Saban. It's the only kid who beats Nick Saban, and now he's on Nick Saban's side. The running quarterback has been the only one that can beat Nick Saban in college football, and now Nick Saban's got one, and he's got one for the next 3 years.
Who can actually throw?
Who can actually throw the football? Unlike Jalen Hurts, you're winning the championship on the night. A guy leaves the field on a stretcher. You don't know what the hell's wrong with him. Did he have a seizure? One of your other guys is fighting with his teammates on the sideline. You score 0 points in the first half, and you have, because you've been in this game so often, so little fear of situations that you bench your quarterback in a way no other coach in college football would have done. Not a one. Not a one has the confidence and the fearlessness of having been in that game. Not a one would have done that, and that's another advantage Nick Saban has. He can coach in that game fearlessly because he knows he's going to be in it again next year.
Maybe Urban.
Maybe
Urban.
Mark Richt did it, but he did it with Evan Sheriffs, which isn't the same.
Wait. In a championship game? In a national championship game?
If Rick's doing that against Pitt, he might be doing that in a national championship game, too.
Urban, Meyer, maybe. All I'm saying is that's yet another advantage for Nick Saban, that when he's on the sideline deciding on halftime that his team's got 0 points, it's a lot harder for Kirby Smart to make the decision of going to his second-string quarterback than it is for Nick Saban, because he's got the credentials, and who's you could criticize him, but what difference does that make?
He's got the advantage. He's certainly got the advantages over programs like UCF. That goes without a doubt. But there is a certain number of elite college football programs that you're parsing. Oregon has all the facilities and the relationship with Nike, and they get the quarterbacks, and they haven't won one.
I know.
This guy's won 6.
I know, Mike, but what I'm telling you is the advantage that Nick Saban has are so overwhelming in every respect that Nick Saban can win championships without quarterbacks.
He's done it.
No one else can do that. The other players are so good everywhere. They're so much better than everyone else that they can win without good quarterback play. And at halftime, they just benched the one guy that was bad, brought in the other guy, and they fixed it.
Yeah, when Urban beat him in the semifinal, he had to have 3 of those quarterbacks.
That's right. Urban Meyer had to have 3 bleeping guys who could win the title. Nick Saban doesn't need that. The only way you could beat him is if you have 3 quarterbacks and he has none.
Don't forget, you can hear more of my sons Dan and Stu weekdays starting at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Hi, everyone. Stu Gatz here. Support for the Dan Le Batard Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Stugatz, STUGOTZ, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Dan Le Batard.
Man, I hope the future looks like whatever Elon Musk is imagining.
Imagining is the right word, because he ain't doing anything. He's just thinking about it.
I don't think it's fair to say he's not doing anything.
What's he doing? I mean,
Stugatz.
Seriously, what does he produce, though?
Tesla?
Well, besides that, the ideas are great. The ideas are great. Great ideas. The execution.
I mean, of course, because they've never been done before.
Well, let's go.
Okay.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio.
Lane Kiffin looks like he's been lost at sea.
At times he does.
Yeah, because that Boca sun he's got it all over his face. And he's gotten a lot of sun that he never got in Alabama.
We'll talk to him in a second. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the Sports Center on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
I got a lot of questions for Lane because that game was fascinating last night. Thank you, Lane, for making time for us. The first place I want to start is Did Nick Saban know before the second half yesterday that his second quarterback is better than his first quarterback?
Well, I think you never know until they play for sure. But I think that, that feeling around that building for this last year, especially, the month leading up to the Sugar Bowl, was that Tua, was very special and had really had practiced great. In that second half of the Sugar Bowl, you would look at the sidelines there and talk to people there. There were a lot of people that wanted Tua to go into the game, and Coach didn't pull the trigger, obviously, until last night.
Why'd he wait so long?
Well, that's a hard thing to do. You got Jalen Hurts, who a year ago was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year, and, your team's winning. So, that's a difficult thing.
But Lane, who's better, Lane? Hold on. You say it's a difficult thing. Why is it difficult for a coach that's fearless and is the CEO of college football? Like, isn't it, yes or no, the second quarterback is better than the first quarterback, according to Lane Kiffin?
Depends on how you're calling the game. But you got to remember, you're talking about the greatest head coach of all time, but one that is extremely conservative and always has been. He's not someone quick to make changes, with any depth chart, let alone the quarterback. So he's done two very out-of-character Nick Saban things that probably have won him the last two national championships. The onside kick in the Clemson game, when we couldn't stop him on defense, and then going to a true freshman at halftime of that game. Those are two abnormal Nick Saban moves.
Yes or no, he can coach fearlessly because of his position. Yes or no?
He could, but he doesn't. That's not his personality. I mean, and that's not good or bad. He's just an ultra conservative human being, and he plays the game that way too. He's very old school NFL mentality. Whether it's look over years how few times they ever go for it on fourth down. That's just he's just NFL trained.
He is. This is interesting that you would say that. Lane Kiffin with us on ESPN Radio. Basically, the reason that he's being so conservative is because he's got all the best players on defense and special teams, and he can just sit around waiting to not make the mistake because the defense and special teams is going to be better than everyone they're playing against.
Yeah, but I think that's who he is. I mean, he just always has been that way. That's his personality. But yeah, when the defense is playing as well as they were, and going into the game, you can usually tell how the defense is going to play by who they're playing. So I last week, said, all right, this is the matchup Alabama wanted. They didn't want Oklahoma. You can't move the ball just like Georgia in the second half. The old school huddle, go slow, hand the ball off under center, that does not work versus Alabama, and it's never worked. You've got to go ultra fast and have tempo and spread them out, like the teams over the past that have beat them, like Clemson 2 years ago and Ohio State and Oklahoma the year before that.
Let me ask you this question. Lane Kiffin with us on ESPN Radio. What percentage of coaches coaching against Nick Saban do you believe are afraid or not fearless? Not afraid, but not fearless.
Oh, probably none of them. I would think that 90% of them, when they go play against them, just trying to keep the game close, find a way to just maybe somehow win it versus go after it.
Isn't that a terrible way to coach, Lane? You don't coach that way. Isn't that a terrible way to coach?
I don't know. I just don't believe in it. We led the country in most fourth down conversions. So that's just how I coach. But most people don't do that. I would say over the years, the ones that have, Hugh Freeze did it, and beat Coach twice. Urban Meyer did it in that Sugar Bowl that year. And, Clemson, 2 years ago with Deshaun obviously did it.
Lane, you're watching the game last night, and you're watching Kirby Smart, Coach, and you're familiar with Kirby because you coached with him at Alabama. Is there a decision or a play call that he made where you're sitting there and going, wow, Kirby, that was bad. That was a bad decision?
No, I don't think it was really necessarily a decision. I think that it's easy to say today, obviously they went ultra-conservative in the second half, but they felt like they were playing great on defense, so you can see why they did that. The only problem is when you go ultra-conservative against Alabama, you're not going to move the ball. Right. So I think in that I can see being safe, but I think you still got to give Alabama more problems than the traditional old school, hand the ball between the tackles.
Well, help us out with something. Lane Kiffin with us on ESPN Radio, former offensive coordinator for Nick Saban and now the coach of the mighty Foul Owls at FAU, 10-year contract. I put you as the coach of Georgia last night. It's 2nd and 26. Alabama has the ball. You're in overtime. You've got the 3-point lead. 2nd and 26. Can you explain to me the number of things, like what's the first priority defensively? What are you telling your defensive coaches? It's 2nd and 26. What can't I allow on this next play?
A deep ball, but they're actually in, again, this is why coaching's such a good and bad profession because, we get too much credit, we get too much blame. The players got to make plays, the players got to do things right. The play actually is 4 verticals, like Coach Saban calls Seattle, like you said. It's 4 verticals, all right? They play cover 2. It's a dead play. Like, it's actually a bad offensive call. You should be trying to get half of the yards back because if you throw that ball incomplete, now you're 3rd and 26, you're out of field goal range. So they're actually in the right call, but the players don't execute it. The corner didn't reroute them, and then the safety looked over to the other side instead of playing in his half. That's why you call it, because the 4 verticals run right into cover 2, and there's nowhere to throw the ball.
I know, but Lane, I'm so confused by how he was that wide open on that play when you know that that's the last thing that you can allow. And not only to that point, but also, Lane, the quarterbacks all night, they were looking downfield and their receivers were covered. The first option and the second option was never there, and it's why Hurts got benched, because they were running sideways and they were putting down after the second option. They were running the ball. How is that open for your season?
That's it. You got to watch, Tua looks to his right and the safety screws up. That safety has that half of the field, and there's only one receiver on that side. That part of the play is super dead because you have the guy double covered, the corner and the safety. The other 3 receivers are on the other side. So that safety all he's got to do is play the half of the field back there, and he's going to throw an interception. But Tua, when he's looking to the right, the safety, all right, bites on his eyes, which he shouldn't be looking at his eyes. He bites on his eyes and moves over there, and then Tua makes a great throw.
He can't bite on the eyes, though. The thing that I was amazed by, Lane, is they're being saluted as it's just some sort of great play. It was an amateur play call by Alabama and amateur defense by Georgia that decided the championship.
But almost professional play by the quarterback. He held the safety as long as you could possibly hold him.
I'm talking about that's a high school call that won that game, and that's a high school defensive mistake that cost Georgia the championship. Yes or no, Lane?
Very fair. And again, that's what I'm saying. Coaching is, it's just that profession where, we're great, when we win, we're terrible when we lose. Those things. Look, Tua made unbelievable plays. That's not supposed to be open. He's really supposed to be reading the right side, and he just chucks it. Sometimes when you haven't played like that, that's why backup quarterbacks in the NFL in preseason, they go in and they just move the ball right down the field. Because there's kind of no fear that Tua had in that game. And no one's even noticed this yet. Look at the 4th down conversion for the touchdown where Tua goes to his left.
Right.
He's not throwing to Calvin.
Right.
He's throwing the ball the in route on the back end line.
They had a touchdown thrown to the wrong receiver last night. A mistake ended up being a touchdown. That ball should have been intercepted.
It's a 14-point swing. It's 4th down. They're going to knock it down. They're going to get the ball back right there and have the ball potentially go down and score. Instead, Alabama scores 7 points, and he's not throwing to the guy.
Right. He was not throwing to that receiver. I remember that, Stugotz, when that happened. Yes. We said that's not where he intended for that touchdown to go. That's a mistake. Are Alabama's 2 touchdowns last night a mistake?
Overrated to
I mean, the whole thing. Lane, I'm looking at what happened at the end of the game last night, and I'm saying that the mistake that safety made is like Chris Webber. It's like one of the historic mistakes made in the game in terms of what his responsibility was that he allowed that guy to get open.
Yeah, that's why it's such a crazy game, and that's why you get what you get sometimes with a true freshman quarterback. Think how horrible the play is before. He takes a 16-yard sack in overtime. When it's a 3-point overtime, the one thing you can't do is take a sack. That about loses the game for him, and then they have the miraculous play that should be a dead play. And then we're talking about Kirby Smart, being having the national championship.
So, Lane, what happens here? Because you said that if Tua doesn't play last night, you think he probably transfers after the game, after this season. He'll play somewhere else next year. So what happens now? Because I thought one of the fascinating things was to see how Jalen Hurts reacted to being benched. What happens now with Jalen Hurts?
Well, I think that, like you just mentioned at the beginning, like I said earlier today, the word was, after not putting him in the Sugar Bowl, after he really thought that he'd beat Jalen out and ability to play, that Tua was gone. Was gone this week coming up right here because schools start their spring semester. So we go from, if they don't put him in, Tua's probably somewhere else this week at a different school and changes the history of college football.
Lane. Jalen Hurts might be available to an FAU football team soon. Lane. FAU. Could FAU use a man with Jalen Hurts' skill set?
You guys can't get me to bite on that. Both tried it. One of you trying to get me to say something stupid.
Tamper with the Alabama program and the CEO of college football.
I really didn't do anything, Lane. I just said Lane.
Jalen Hurts, Lane.
I already got a. How about this? I got a violation because I tweeted at Lamar Jackson. Do you think Lamar Jackson is transferring to FAU? That won the Heisman Trophy. Transferred to the NFL. And I made a joke and I said, Lamar, come home. And the NCAA gave me a violation.
You got an actual violation for that? You got a call from a pencil pusher? What happened? What'd they say?
And you think I'm gonna recruit Jalen on your radio show? Come on,
Lane. We need to break more rules together. Lane. I got a trophy here. It's for UCF. It's 13-0, but I want to give it to you. Can I give it to the FAU Owls to continue your reign as our college football correspondent?
Yes, we'll just claim ourselves as national.
That's fine. All right, we're getting behind this cause.
Top 25.
All right.
We didn't make the top 25. We'll claim ourselves as a
all right,
though.
send them.
Yes.
Send FAU the trophy that we have for Central Florida. Let's celebrate Lane Kiffin. That analysis was really good.
It was great. We went to the wrong school for our crusade.
We really did.
And the wrong coach.
Oh, how much we would have committed so many NCAA violations. Let's shift our focus here. Get behind the FAU Owls and see if we can build them into the program that challenges Alabama.
Don Lebatard.
Stugotz is kind of morally bankrupt.
Stugotz.
That's fair.
This is the Don Lebatard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
We got kayaking news. We've got breaking kayaking news. We'll get to that in a second. Also, I love that Lane Kiffin, basically, we found a coach who understands that everything is as ridiculous as we think it is.
Yeah.
Everything in sports. He does not care about NCAA rules. He comes on here and he jokes about tweeting to Lamar Jackson. He doesn't care about the NCAA rules.
And it is ridiculous when you think about it.
Of course it's ridiculous.
Like when Lane says, what do you think? He's going to leave Louisville? Come to me?
Of course it's ridiculous, but he's thumbing his nose at the authorities.
Yeah. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Reese Davis going to join us there in just a second.
Stugotz, one of the reasons it's so inspiring to see Lane Kiffin just sort of urinating all over the place is look at this war we got going on right now with the NBA coaches super serious like Rick Carlisle and Stan Van Gundy, our friend Stan Van Gundy, going after LeVar Ball for having for being glittery.
Right.
For being a loud thing that comes and upsets their social circle.
Well, they're coming at us for giving them a platform, right? For making them a story.
Correct. Yeah. They're mad at ESPN because we're partners with the NBA and they don't want LeVar Ball criticizing their coaches. And now the coaches are uniting. You can't get these coaches to unite on anything. Right. And they're uniting against LeVar Ball.
How about they stick to coaching? Leave the entertainment decisions to us. How's that sound? I mean, Rick Carlisle.
Honestly.
He wants us to cover his dreadful team.
These coaches are telling ESPN how to run his business. Do you remember? Hold on a second. Reese, we'll get to you in a second. But do you remember when Stan Van Gundy was going to be the Doug Collins? He was going to be on that pregame show, the NBA. Sure. He was really honest and really forthright, and he was somebody who was going to say interesting things and become a personality on television. It was all set to happen, and somewhere along the line, David Stern nixed it because of this partnership between the NBA and basketball and ESPN, its broadcasting partner. And Stan Van Gundy said on this radio show you have to have no testicles whatsoever to pay someone billions of dollars and then allow them to make the decisions. And now Stan wants to do it too.
Yeah.
Stan wants ESPN to bow down and allow the coaches to run LeVar Ball out of our sports coverage. Get the hell out of here, man.
Van Gundy, I mean, we love you, man, but you should be ashamed of yourself. Anyway, here's your SportsCenter update. Bill Belichick said that it was absolutely his intention to return as coach of the Patriots in 2018. Great. Tom Brady joined his weekly radio hit with WEEI, and in regards to him wanting Jimmy Garoppolo traded, said, quote, "In 18 years, I've never celebrated when someone has been traded or been cut." And finally, a dog that was snatched by an eagle in Pennsylvania was found alive 6 kilometers away.
That happened to Big Boy's dog, Halle Berry, except it wasn't found alive.
Exactly.
Not as lucky.
Yes, not as lucky. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day. I don't want to waste any more of Reese's time, but we are sitting on big kayaking news. We'll get to it next.
Yes, there's a food poisoning situation.
Yes.
Somebody spiked a drink.
Yes.
And also, we'll get to that sound of Kerry Champion asking Big Boy about his dog, Halle Berry. But before we do that, Reese Davis is with us. And, man, what an arbitrary champion we've crowned here. Regional champion, SEC champion. Tell me last night.
Reese is going to disagree with you.
I know, that's fine, because the entire structure and establishment disagrees with me. But
because Alabama's schedule.
Yeah, whatever. So, Reese Davis with us now.
And he went to Alabama.
Can you explain to me, Reese, please, give me the advantages in the sport that Nick Saban doesn't have? Can you list for me a disadvantage that Nick Saban now has in that sport?
I cannot. I mean, I don't know what disadvantage you would think of. He's probably the best recruiter in the sport. He's, in my judgment, he's not only the best coach right now, he's the best coach of all time. Doesn't mean he knows more ball than other terrific coaches. It just means that he's put his structure in place, and it's been more successful than anyone else's.
Reese, I feel like the time to get them was the last 9 years, because they've been able to do this without a quarterback, and they're going to realize at some point that that having a quarterback and a long ball can serve them.
Well, there's no doubt about it. And I just talked to Nick a little while ago, and he said that the reason he made the change was because Georgia and several teams down the stretch of the season had loaded up to stop their running game, and they just hadn't been able to make plays. And Tua has been pushing really since the spring. And obviously he's wanted to play, but Jalen Hurts has been so successful and has been such a steady hand and leader for them. It's hard to make the change. But last night, you had no choice. If you continued down the path that you were going, then you were going to lose the game. And I don't think that, given the way the players reacted when Tua came into the game, that even had it not gone well, Nick was not in danger of losing the team by making that switch. I think the player, you can never fool the players about what is needed or who is needed in a certain situation. They knew that, that Tua is a gifted passer, and that's what they needed to have a chance to win last night. Yes
or no, Reese Davis, college football expert, realized as it happened that 4th and 4 play that was a touchdown was thrown to the wrong receiver by accident?
There were a lot of people. There were a lot of people on the sideline, so I'm not going to say that I was first to see it. I did see the traffic in the back of the end zone because I happened to be down on that end of the field when it happened, and Ridley just sort of flashed in and caught it. But I agree with McShay and a lot of other people. I think he was trying to throw the ball to the guy on the back line of the end zone.
I know you're supposed to, Reese Davis with us here on ESPN Radio. I know you're supposed to remain neutral, Reese, or at least try to, but you went to the University of Alabama. So put us next to Reese Davis as that final play unfolds.
I was standing by Booger McFarland, and you know what? I know you guys hate this kind of stuff, but it's really true. When you cover this sport as closely as I do, and you get to know everybody, and you also realize that since I didn't play at that level, nobody gives a flying toot where I went to school,
All right, you need to settle down, all right? You need to settle down, because once we've gotten to the flying toot portion of the conversation...
We're okay, I dumped it.
No, we're going to have to let you go. We're going to have to let you go. You're off the reservation. What is happening here?
You're unhinged.
What is happening here? Calm down, Reese.
I didn't know if I could say fart on your high-level radio
A flying
program,
fart was where you were going to go to the edge, well beyond the flying toot?
Yeah, which is, I try to keep the language clean for the kids, Dan. I know you're trying to be a good influence out there, but nobody cares where I went to school. And so, I'm not going to be one that goes up and beats my chest and say my school won or didn't win. This is a story I've told a lot, and you guys don't love the serious stories, but when Alabama beat Clemson, in Phoenix. I was walking back to the office, and I ran into Dabo Swinney's wife and kids. And I've known them, and they're friends of mine, and I saw the heartbreak and the anguish. When you get to know the people around, it's really not that difficult to remain fair. There's no such thing in the world as unbiased. Everyone has their perspective on things. But it is not hard to be fair. And that, in my judgment, that's what we're called on to do.
Okay, that's fine, objective journalist guy. What we're asking you is, did you shout, holy bleep,
No.
2nd and 26, that play's not supposed to be open.
At least on the inside.
That play's not supposed to be open. I'm incredulous. Anything. What did Reese Davis do?
Absolutely. No, what I said to Booger was like, holy crap, what a freaking throw.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yes. Roll Tide.
I mean,
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Well, but I'm going to tell you, you know what? It was funny. It was really interesting. I rode back to the hotel with Jimbo Fisher after the game, and hear him breaking down the defense and what the safety should have done in that situation and why he didn't do it is, it's funny to hear, what the coach immediately recognizes from watching a play like that.
Reese, you are exceptional. You're as good as we've got at the network. You are a face and a shining light on behalf of journalism and broadcasting.
And the hair.
But you are too close to all of these people, and it's getting in the way of your fun. Like, you're too close to all of them. You're seeing the heartbreak in Dabo's wife and, like, everything else. And it's like, separate yourself. You're too close to the inside. You need to have some emotion in your life.
And you might want to pick up some of the names you dropped.
Yes. Oh, you dropped so many names. I saw Jimbo. I rode with here for Jimbo. I rode there with Dabo's wife. I stood next to Booger. Nobody gives a flying toot where I went to school, but perhaps they give a flying toot about all these names I'm dropping.
Well, see, the problem is because I never get to run in the social circles in the hip clubs in Miami with you guys. That's what it is,
No, not with me.
All right, thank you,
No,
Reese.
not with you, Stu. It's just Levitar.
It's also a bogus national championship. UCF has his rightful acclaim. I'm not even kidding, Reese. I know that you're the college football face and voice, but I am saying that never before have we had such a clear doubt about whether we should have co-champions or not. Co-champions.
No, you're out of your mind. Never before. What about LSU and USC?
How many undefeated teams are there in the country right now, Reese? How many undefeated teams are there?
Wait, that's not what you said. You said never before have we had such a doubt that there should be co-national champions.
That's right.
That's right. And you're wrong about that.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
2003. Well, number one, because LSU and USC in 2003 would certainly be a debatable point, as would many others in the past. But here's the analogy that I would draw. Just because I think his name is Pedro Fullerman from the Phillies hit 364 this year as a late season call-up. He didn't win the batting title. He didn't have enough big league at-bats.
This is bull bleep. No, this is the regional champion. No, this is your SEC bias. We're in bed with the SEC network. This is your SEC
bias.
Out
of your mind.
This is what's happening
out
here.
Of your mind.
You're telling me how much better is Mississippi State than the University of South Florida? Tell me, because they're not. The teams in the SEC are not better than the South Florida team UCF beat.
So is that the measure that you're going to use to apply?
Should the measure be that you think the SEC is great?
Level teams are.
Phone issues, Dan.
Let me ask you this: do you think that going through the schedule in the American Conference, while it's a good league with good teams, is the same as going through the Big Ten, the Big 12, or the SEC or the ACC?
He does, Reese. Reese, I want to be clear. We're all with you.
Out of your mind.
No, we're all with you.
We're
all with you, Reese.
No,
he is out of his mind.
No,
yes,
the way that he frames it there, he's right. But I could come back just as easily and say to you that if Alabama had exactly Central Florida's resume, you would make them the national champion. I could say that, and you would, because of the reputation Alabama has.
Not if they played the American schedule, which is again a good league. And the reason I don't like these debates is because it sounds as if I'm bashing UCF. They had a great year, and they're capable of beating teams. Maybe they are capable of running through.
They should be co-champions.
We have a system. You can't just change.
No, I can. I think the system's bogus. I can.
I already paid a fine. Reese, stay strong, man.
You should declare them. You could get them a trophy.
I have a trophy.
They didn't
I have a
accept the
trophy
trophy.
here for them that they won't accept. It's a trophy. Somebody send it to Reese Davis. I have a trophy. I've got 4,500 T-shirts declaring them national champions.
You just agreed to send it to Lane Kiffin. You can't send it to everyone.
I know. I'll send it to Reese, too. Send a piece of it to Reese so he can eat it.
No one wants the trophy,
I know. I'm very ashamed of that. Reese, I'm sorry for my tone. I do love you, and thank you for playing along with our show.
No, man, I enjoy it. I love it. I love being on the show. You guys have a great one.
Roll Tide. Roll Tide.
I don't give a
right, see you
flying
later.
toot.
Say it, Reese.
I don't care what you care about.
Dan Lebatard.
Texter writes in, oh, wow, Dan, you don't argue and you don't yell. You're so perfect, except you have the face of a 600-pound man.
Stugats.
I couldn't talk.
This is the Dan Lebatard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
All right, Reese, we wanted to bring you back on because Dan is unhinged and he's rude, and we spent the entire commercial break yelling at him because two things. We want to have a good relationship with College Game Day and everyone associated with College Game Day because we love the show, and the people who work on the show have been great to me and our staff. That's number one, okay? And number two, I've never seen Lebatard like this. He is unhinged when it comes to UCF, that he won't allow even someone like yourself, who is a college football guru, he will not allow them to finish answering one of his questions because he is so passionate about the fact that UCF should be the national championship.
And Reese is too close
Stop
to it.
interrupting.
Don't talk. And Reese is not too close to it. Reese is fine. I mean, Reese went to the University of Alabama, was standing next to Booger McFarland, and did not even give out a fist pump or a roll tide when that play unfolded.
Can we let a guest answer a question here? An invited guest. You want, give me one example. No, that's not good enough, even though they actually split a national championship. That's not good enough. What happened in the early 2000s? Not good enough. Give me another one.
What's the matter with you? Seriously, don't talk. Yeah. Reese Davis, did you feel any of this as it was happening last segment?
I remain amused by Lebatard. I think he's a brilliant guy who sometimes gets overly passionate and loses sight of
Reese, just bash it. Reese, did you feel it? Did you bash it?
I was rude.
He was so rude.
I was rude to you.
Dan, let him finish. Let him finish, Dan.
Yeah, let him finish.
You know, I just think that Dan likes to be a contrarian, you know? I mean, Dan knows that...
No, but you really got to crush him here, Reese. We're going to let you finish in a second.
He's too nice. He's too nice. He gives too many he gives too many flying toots about what people think.
Stop interrupting Reese Davis.
Reese, do me a favor. We'll let you go as long as you want, as long as you're giving it to Lebatard. That's it, okay? Just go. We won't cut you off.
Hey, look, I'm not gonna get down there because it just...
The College Game Day people have to hate us, right? The College Game Day people hate us. They talk about how much they hate us every College Game Day, right?
Is that fair? Reese, is that true?
That's usually the early part of the meeting, but then we move on from that afterwards.
But the thing they really hate about us is Dan, right?
It's me. Yeah, it's me. I deserve
Well, you know, I mean, I was courtside for one of the great Lebatard rivalry moments when I was sitting beside Billis. The night Billis got off the all-time zinger on Lebatard and told him, fine, then take offense. I'm not talking about that anymore, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You want to listen to that again? That was great fun.
Let him finish?
Stop interrupting Mr. Davis.
Reese, we have that sound for you. We'll play in a second, but finish. Go ahead. You were sitting right next to him.
I always think it was a great quote. You know, Jay used in a rare attempt by Bill to be polite, said, you know, no offense, but, you know, I don't want to talk about this. And Dan said, you can't say no offense and say whatever you want or whatever he said. And Bill said, well, fine, take offense. I'm not talking about this anymore or whatever he said. I laughed.
Yeah, here's the sound.
Funny.
Here it is, Reese.
If someone with Tyler Hansborough's resume were black, do you think people might say he's unathletic or he's not athletic enough?
Dan, no offense, but this is stupid. I mean, all due respect. I mean, if you guys want to talk about this, I'm here to talk about whatever you want outside of this.
No,
this is stupid.
We don't have to talk about anything, but it's not stupid. And you can't start a sentence.
It is.
Jay, you can't start a sentence with no offense and then say this is stupid.
Okay, then take offense. It's stupid, and I don't want to talk about it.
That was a good one. I got to give him that one, Reese. That was a good one. He got me.
Dan,
Stop interrupting.
That was a good one.
I am so sorry. We keep inviting you into our home. You know what Dan's like? He's like the dog that you've had your whole life, and anytime you have company over, over, you say, he's not a bad dog. He's not usually like this, but every time you know he's exactly like this. And in your heart of hearts, you know he's a bad dog, but you love him.
Yep. Now, Reese, we got like 20 seconds here. If UCF plays, Dan will not say a word. If UCF plays Alabama's schedule, how many losses do they have?
3.
Yep.
You mother! I will strangle you to death! Stop
Bad dog! Bad dog! Bad dog! Bad dog! Bad dog! Bad dog!
I will strangle the life out of you!
Bad dog!
Restate this in front of everybody!
Sit!
Catch more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats, 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Help protect what matters with the ADT Safer, Smarter New Year's sales event. For a limited time, get an ADT Security Starter Kit. Everything you need to get started with ADT Pulse, including a security panel, keypad, a motion sensor, and 2 entry sensors. Plus, there's an indoor camera and key fob all professionally installed for only $49. It's a $599 savings that comes with the warm, confident feeling of safety at home. Requires 36-month monitoring contract, QSP, and Easy Pay. Activation and early termination fees may apply. Certain markets excluded. Licenses available at ADT.com. Florida EF0001121. Louisiana F1639. Visit ADT.com/podcast. Hurry. This special offer now ends 1/21.
Dan Le Batard.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Are you disturbed at all that Stugats thinks extortion and blackmail are normal business practices?
Stugats.
It has to drive you crazy because you are smart, you are well thought out, you are reasonable, you are balanced, and I just come in with blackmail, COB.
And they love you more.
Yep, spot on.
And I'm so envious. I want their love.
You're not going to get it.
Their love's important to me. I want the love of dumb people.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
Were they showing footage of Fat Chris juggling from last night?
Yeah, the megacast last night. Kenny G was performing. We had a counter-programming to the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. Kenny G played for 12 minutes while Christopher Cody, Greg Cody's son, Morange, was painted orange and juggling.
Here's your SportsCenter update. Draymond Green was fined $25,000 on Monday for criticizing the NBA's officiating. Antonio Brown practiced for the first time in 3 weeks. That's big. And finally, McCarran International Airport TSA agents stopped a passenger last Tuesday after they found a dead cougar inside one of his bags during the screening process. The passenger told agents he had been hunting and showed them fish and gaming tags that were placed on the animal. Although it is not illegal to transport dead animals, officials declined the option to ship the cougar. The passenger ended up shipping the cougar via FedEx. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
He's a Hall of Famer, bad man. Terrell Davis with us on behalf of the Vizio Top Value Performer TVP Award. If you want to vote for the TVP, visit Vizio.com/TVP.
Probably hurting today. Went to the University of Georgia, man.
Yeah, we will talk to him a second. What is your greatest allegiance here? Your greatest sports allegiance, Mr. Davis, and thank you for being on with us, is to whom? Is it to your collegiate school? Is it to the Broncos? Is it to someone else?
Well, before I say that, man, I'm interested in hearing who the passenger was that had the cougar in the suitcase.
Yeah. I want more details on that story as well.
I don't have any more details. I mean, I'll do some research during the segment.
What more details would you like? Maybe,
okay.
Maybe Terrell, is there any questions you have? We can then call somebody and get the answers to your questions.
Well, I thought that may have been like an ex-player or something like that. I thought that's where you were going with that, but
no, it's just a random story.
No, just a random story. Yeah, but I could see like an athlete do it. Like I could see, yes.
Well, who was the teammate that you had that was because the Broncos have that Wolf guy, and I've been told he's crazy and he chases Tom Brady and threatens to eat his children. Who's the craziest teammate Terrell Davis ever had?
Oh, I had a few of them. Alfred Williams was one of them. He was a little off, but I don't know if he would go hunting and bring a cougar back in a suitcase. But
when a guy's off like that, though, what do you do? Are you afraid of him off the field? Like, how does that work when a guy's a little bit off?
Yeah, a little bit off the field. I think you try to keep him in the locker room on the field. That's a safe haven right there. You know he's going to be okay there, but anytime you go off the field, you got to be careful, man. But Alfred's cool now. He's doing radio in Denver, so I know he's normal now.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, I was going to back to your question about my allegiance. You're asking me about my collegiate allegiance or my pro allegiance?
I'm just asking you the thing that's most likely to make Terrell Davis when watching a sporting event is blank.
Probably Denver. If I'm watching Denver, I have a little there. I'm tied to both. I mean, last night was hard. No, last night was tough, and I think so for so many years, Georgia's been kind of the team that's been the little brother, right? And Bama's been the big brother. And you had a chance last night to kind of flip the roles there. And the game was going as planned early. And then all of a sudden, Alabama went to that secret weapon. I don't know where Tua came from. And he comes in, and the game just changes. The energy he brought, the plays they started to make. And then you can kind of sense at that point, pretty much late in the fourth quarter, or actually early fourth quarter, where you felt like Bama kind of knew they would win this game, and Georgia kind of hoped they would win. And they started to play a little bit conservative. You start to play not to lose instead of playing to win. And
I think that Terrell, tell me what you think. I think that's what is actually choking in sports, not the things that people think where you go mentally totally soft on something. It happens like that. You're just a little more fearful than you would normally be, and then you become conservative, and that's where choking happens.
Yeah, and you can tell because when you're up by 10 points or 20 to 10, and you feel like, okay, what's the worst we can do is to throw a pick. To be too aggressive and do something that puts us in harm's way. And then you start to think, okay, if we run the ball, that's safe, right? That's safe. Time is eating off the clock. We're doing things by the book. But when I was fortunate to win those 2 championships, we had to be aggressive, and we couldn't change. We didn't allow the moment or the situation to dictate how we played. And I think that's an important thing in sports, especially in football. You've got to say, we're playing to win. And everything we do is going to be in that direction. And you have to know when you have momentum shifts and you have a player who's injected into a game who is changing the tempo, who is changing the energy level, you've got to match that. And I think Georgia matched that in the second half. And only scoring 7 points in the second half, and kind of their playbook seemed to be, all right, we score 20 points, we win this game. Instead of saying we need to put 27 up, we need to put 30, whether it's 32, 33, whatever it is, we got to put points on the board, and didn't do that.
I think choking's a bit strong, though, guys. I do. I think choking's a bit strong.
I'm saying
they were up 3 with the second and 26.
What I'm saying is that I don't believe choking is something that exists in sports where somebody who was strong suddenly becomes mentally weak. What I'm saying is that that's what choking looks like, where a team just goes a little more conservative and it costs them the game because they weren't as fearless as they normally are.
Terrell Davis is. Go ahead.
And you know what? Here's an example, and I think we all have experienced it. If you play golf, right, and you've got a good round going, and you stand up at an 18th tee. There's something that's different about the 18th tee. Instead of just thinking, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and knock, get my driver down in the middle of the fairway. We get conservative, right? We go with the iron. You think, all right, I got to put this ball in the fairway, so let me go down to an iron or a 3-wood. And so that's not the same mentality. You're trying to protect a good score versus I'm going to go get this great round.
Yep.
And it happens just like that.
He's so right about that.
Yeah, but Terrell, here's what I'll tell you. Phil Mickelson pulled out a driver 18th hole of the U.S. Open and lost.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
He had his foot on the pedal.
Yes, that's fine, but it's fearless.
Okay. All right, that's one example.
but he's right, though. Better to die that way. Better to die fearlessly than to live a coward.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
What are you doing with Vizio? Can you explain it to us?
Yeah, so Vizio, this is their top value performer, and basically this is an award that recognizes the player whose on-the-field performance it most exceeds the value of their contract. Last year's winner was Spencer Ware. It's the 11th year that Vizio is doing this, and fans can go vote. They can vote as many times as they like. They just have to go to Vizio.com/TVP, and you can vote from now until January 14th. It's an outstanding award, and the candidates on that are some good guys. Spencer won last year, but Devontae Adams has won, Alex Collins, Jordan Howard, Alvin Kamara, and Jerick McKinnon are all the nominees for this award. So it's pretty cool for somebody to be recognized for something they're doing on the field that is, their effort that is beyond their contract. So please go vote. It's pretty simple.
Terrell, I'm going to give you a few words, and then maybe you can piece the whole story together for us, okay? Because I'm sure this will jog your memory. Japan, chili dog, French fries, candy.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Nachos. What else am I throwing there?
Well, what's the story?
What's the story?
You and Stugotz have a secret joke that none of us know what it's about.
He's about, hey, it'd be rude to the guest again, man.
Sorry about him.
Yeah, sorry, Terrell.
That's okay. That's okay. That's all right. I mean, basically, those were some of the items that I enjoyed before I was put into a game, the preseason game in Tokyo, Japan, where I ran down on the field, and it was actually my first play in my pro career. I ran down and made a tackle on special teams in Tokyo, Japan, at the American Bowl, and because I didn't think I was going to play in the game, so. Veterans on the sideline eating food, and I figured, hey, I'm starving. I might as well join them. And I also, after I ran out and made that tackle, I had to give it up, So I went to the sideline and threw up a little bit as well. So, but that's what I ate before.
Well, what the hell were you doing? Like, what are you doing?
He was eating a buffet.
Were you not disciplined about your eating? Are you like a big candy eater?
He didn't think he was going to play.
No, I was a rookie, man. I didn't think I was going to play. I didn't play in the first preseason game. I didn't think I was going to play in this game. And so,
Is that how you were discovered? Is that the play where you were discovered?
That was it. That was the play.
Wait a minute. What? Your Hall of Fame career? What?
Yeah.
Your Hall of Fame career as a 6th round pick was born because you had a bunch of junk food on the sidelines, made the tackle, and then vomited on the sidelines?
That was it. That was the birth. That was the play that got me noticed. That was the play where they said, all right, next series, Davis, you're going in at running back. That was the play. That was the first play I think John Elway had even said my name.
And how much vomit was there on the sidelines?
And then you won him 2 Super Bowls.
How much vomit? Yeah, and then you won him 2 Super Bowls.
How much? I mean, typical vomit. It was nothing. It wasn't like the one that like the projectile type vomit. It was just
But it seems really irresponsible.
Was there a buffet on the sideline?
It seems really irresponsible and unprofessional of you.
No, it wasn't at the time. I felt real good about eating up that food. I felt real good about it. It wouldn't change. I was hungry.
All right, very good. Satisfy your appetite. Terrell Davis is with us on behalf of the Vizio Top Value Performer TVP Award. To vote for the TVP, visit Vizio.com/TVP. Thank you, sir. We appreciate catching up with you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
To be the man, you got to beat the man.
Woo! I think I'm going to have a public beef here. You think I'm being rude today. I think I'm going to have a public beef today with Stan Van Gundy. I think I'm going to do that next.
Really?
My good friend, Stan Van Gundy. I'm down on what he's doing.
I saw a big article.
I've never had this kind of disagreement with a public friend of mine. So we'll see what happens in the next segment on that, because I'm just catching up on this information. Stan Van Gundy is basically withholding interviews. He's thinking about withholding ESPN contact until we cover LeVar Ball a little more, and it feels like a threat.
A little less, you mean?
A little less, rather.
Right. He doesn't want him covered.
He wants, well, I want to get to the details of this story in a second.
Don Lebatard.
What would you say, Stugotz? I feel like you misrepresent me all the time. You've been doing this show with me for a long time. What is my viewpoint about coaches? Because I feel like even...
They don't matter at all. Misrepresentation?
Stugotz.
I don't even know why I bothered asking you.
What do you mean?
This is the Don Lebatard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
True or false, Chris Sims? John Gruden once compared you to warm urine running down his leg.
That is a true statement. Yes, he said worse as well, but I can't repeat everything else he told me.
Why did he call you warm urine running down his leg?
Because I probably messed up one of his little babies, which is, like his plays. I probably messed it up in the huddle or the execution of it, and we're watching a film, and he, in his little Chucky Gruden face with his, shrunk up nose, that look he gives you, and I mean, you know what you are, Sims? You know what you are? You're like warm running down my leg. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate that, man.
Were you laughing? Were you terrified? Like, can you put us there?
No, I was laughing. I was definitely, I was laughing. He always had great, unique ways to make his points. And I appreciated them. Come on, I'm from New Jersey. My dad I grew up with my dad being, coached by Bill Parcells, so I understood how the NFL football world worked at that point.
Well, explain this to me, Chris, because you seem to be similarly minded to us. I feel like in a lot of those instances that people are professionals, they have their own personal pride, and so that doesn't actually become coaching. That's just a guy being frustrated and being a jerk, and he's got the power of leadership. But did you find that to be helpful coaching when they'd call you warm urine running down their leg? Did you find that to be coaching?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I think if it was like the first thing he ever said to me in my first meeting ever, then yeah, that would probably not go the right way. But I mean, he said those comments to me after getting to know me and realized that I had thick enough skin to handle that type of treatment.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so he's good that way. He's got a great feel for players and the ways, what they can handle and what they can't.
Who's not good that way? Who was a guy that was just your warm urine running down my leg and he didn't care whether he knew you or not? That's how your dad was treated by Parcells, right?
No doubt.
Yeah, certainly. It's that's a no nonsense, coaching tree, the Parcells, Belichick coaching tree. They don't really want to hear the excuses. This is what they've taught you. They've thoroughly taught you it. We walked through it. We talked about it in meetings. How dare you screw up my practice? Yes, that's kind of a different attitude. Gruden was more in the way of, one of the guys just, BSing in a room. You come in. He's going to show you things on film, maybe make fun of you for the dumb things you've done, but then also show you things that motivate you and go, look, he'll be, hey, man, look, you could be like this. And he'll bring out a tape of like 1988 Joe Montana throwing to Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that seems like that would be
It's
a lot
what he
of
did
fun
in the
that
turkey hole pass. He brought out footage of Brett Favre throwing the turkey hole.
So the thing is, people are intimidated. I think we just realized something together as a show. People are intimidated by the John Gruden personality type, but what you're telling us is that John Gruden is just really jocular, and while he might be angry, it's not the Parcellian thing, so he'll call you warm urine running down his leg, but he's just sort of the language of intimacy among men.
Yes, exactly right. That's exactly the way to put it. Yeah, he's going to be one of the guys. He's going to laugh. He's going to tell you how much he likes you and how much he cares for you and the potential he sees in you. And he always used to say, he used to go, hey, man, you need to be worried. Like, when I don't yell at you anymore, that's when you need to be worried. And I knew it. He was right. And then when he wanted me out the door of Tampa, that's when he stopped talking to me and stopped caring that I was messing up checks and things like that.
Once you gave the game your spleen.
Right. Yes.
The number 50, the 50th best quarterback. Chris Sims is totally right here that Blake Bortles is getting in everybody's way, and he's the 70th best quarterback in the world. 19 spots lower than his backup, Chad Henne, who is 51 on this list.
Wait, before we get to 50, Chris, I'm wondering, were any or all the quarterbacks playing last night, were they all better than Blake Bortles?
Were there any quarterbacks better than Blake Bortles playing last night? I don't think so.
No, not at this moment. Certainly not. There's, the freshman at Alabama certainly got potential in what we saw last night. That was amazing for a freshman to come in that kind of instance and perform under that pressure. But no, I'm not putting them in that category quite yet.
It would be great, though, if number 50 were like Rosen. It would be great if you just threw in there a college quarterback. But let's see, we have time for that. The number 50th best quarterback in the world, according to Chris Sims, is
Mark Sanchez, Chicago Bears.
Oh, for the love of God. Oh, for the love of God. You're making this very difficult, Chris. You're making this very difficult, and I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad I'm glad you're having me on, man. This is fun. I really am enjoying this.
A Mark Sanchez-led Jacksonville Jaguar team goes to the Super Bowl.
That's right. Bleacher Report is where you check out Chris Sims. Chris Sims, I know it's counterculture, and I know it's sound. He's totally right about everything. Blake Bortles stinks, man.
You want to know something, Chris? Actually, for the first time, kind of a light has gone off in my head because Mark Sanchez took the Jets to back-to-back AFC
That's right.
championship
Well, this
games.
is the thing. We're learning more and more that all sorts of random things decide championships. Last night, it's a safety making an amateur play that makes Alabama the champions. And what Chris is saying is a lot of people would be doing that for Jacksonville this year, but Blake's getting the credit because Jacksonville's the best team in the sport.
And Chris, I'm laughing at it, but Mark Sanchez took a team with a worse defense to within a game of the Super Bowl. So maybe you're right.
He's right. Not maybe.
Yeah,
he's right.
With worse offensive talent around him, too. I mean, that's just the simple fact. We are in this weird culture of right now where the quarterback is on a pedestal.
Oh, wait a minute.
I mean,
hold on. Chris,
we
got
got
a
to break in.
problem.
Hold on.
Baselli's mad.
Oh, Baselli's
texting Stugatz that he wants to fight Chris Sims. All right, let's just stop everything here.
I'm not fighting Tony Baselli.
Hold on.
Yeah, he loved the Jaguars.
Just stop for a second. Find out next if Chris Sims and Tony Baselli are going to brawl on our radio show next.
Don Lebatard.
Did you know that Jose Canseco's finger fell off during a poker game?
We did a good show today, man.
68% of the audience said no. That's all we got today.
Is that all?
Our job is done.
Stugatz.
That's a quality program we put together.
Good job, everyone.
This is the Don Lebatard Show with the Stugatz on ESPN Radio.
All right, so Chris Sims is still hanging around.
I think he has a kidnapping charge on us. Like an abduction charge of some sort. Like we have basically turned Chris Sims into a prisoner for this radio show.
He has been so great.
And we're not treating him correctly. Like we're mistreating this prisoner. Check him out at Bleacher Report. Check out what he's doing because this man is making time every single day for our show in a way that's annoying.
Yep, and we're grateful. But you're right. We're not treating him correctly. Hence the reason that Tony Baselli is going to come on and yell at him right now.
Well, here's what we have happening here, where Stugatz has basically got this friendship with this 300-pound meathead, lovable oaf cartoon who is really menacing, and he's basically the face of the Jacksonville Jags. When I think of Jacksonville, I don't think about Coughlin. I don't think about Brunell. I think about this dude being better in Jacksonville than anybody has ever been at anything in Jacksonville, but he hates me and he hates my sensibilities. And now I'm with Chris Sims on this. I think Blake Bortles is the 70th best quarterback in the world, and Stugatz is trying to rein in, hold on a chain this Baselli guy. So go ahead, Stugatz.
All right, well, Baselli, let him have it because you texted me during that segment, and Chris Sims has, 69 quarterbacks ahead of Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles is one of the final 8 quarterbacks remaining this season in the NFL. So Baselli, let Sims have it. Go ahead. He's here for you.
Well, first of all, listen, I appreciate it. Chris Sims almost died bleeding to death on the football field, which is the only cool factor that he has in his entire life, outside his dad's great, too. And for him to say that Blake Bortles is the 70th best quarterback is just the most ignorant, asinine statement I've ever heard. And first of all, I see it every day, and I'm here. And Chad Henne is not better than Blake Bortles. Trust me, if he was, he'd be playing. And Mark Sanchez, by the way, isn't either, and I'm an SC guy.
Hold on.
Because Mark Sanchez isn't running for 89 yards yesterday.
Calm down,
He's
Tony.
found a way to win. Come on, give me a break.
All right, but Tony, just so you know, though, Tony, Nick Saban, the greatest in the world, didn't know that his second-half quarterback yesterday was better than his first-half quarterback until he actually did it. So that's not a good point you're making.
I disagree with you there. I think he did know, but because of recruiting purposes and everything else, he doesn't want these future recruits to think that they're going to lose their job immediately if he brings them in. So I think he's playing a little politics there, Dan.
Boom.
So take that from this cartoon character.
Sims, don't you try to butter up the Baselli.
Sims,
okay?
you defend yourself, Sims. Defend yourself.
I would say Caldwell's playing politics by trying to make his third pick of the draft continually be the starting quarterback of the team. And, I have watched him, and it's not just like
whoa, Sims,
I have an asinine comment. I get that. Like, listen, I understand it's something I'm not proud of, but it's the dead truth. That's all there really is to it. I've been watching film for 4.5 years, and you know more about offensive linemen, but I know more about quarterbacks, so sorry.
Woo!
I think after your stupid comments, I might know more about quarterbacks because guess what? Dave Caldwell isn't making the decision, idiot. It's Tom Coughlin. He's in charge down here now.
Wow.
So what do you say
he was
about
a little
that?
stuck.
Take that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Whoa! That's fine. Listen, I'm not going to mess with you, but that's just the way I feel. I studied this hard, and really, I understand you're sticking up for your franchise and all those things. But I can also tell you that most of the coaches didn't want your job in Jacksonville last year either because they didn't want to deal with Blake Bortles either.
That's
so
true. That's true.
And guess what? Most of those coaches are at home right now watching the playoffs as we play Sunday.
Baselli, are you a paid member of the Jacksonville staff?
It's a team sport. It has nothing to do with anything. The Denver Broncos won the Super Bowl with the 34th rated quarterback in football. So we all put quarterbacks in a pedestal and act like, whoa, we can't win unless it's Tom Brady. No, that's not the truth. I mean, Tom Brady's got tons of help around him, and so does Blake Bortles.
You just said you just actually said something halfway intelligent. as a quarterback, you are admitting that you guys aren't quite as important as all you think you are?
I'm always truthful, hence Blake Bortles being 70.
That's what this really gets down to.
Okay, he's not 70th because he's not. He's better than Chad Henne. Who's 69th? Tell me that.
I can't really. Let me pull up my list.
It's Austin Davis.
Hold on. I'll give you the list. You want
Austin
the whole
Davis.
list?
No, it was 69. I think I went with TJ Yates.
No, TJ Yates is 68.
Oh, come on. I see. There's no chance.
Cardale Jones is 67, Baselli.
God.
This is going to make him explode.
Yes.
Hold on.
Make him explode.
I love the fact that you almost bled to death. You got so much.
Just be quiet for a second.
Baselli, I'm going to make your head explode. He has Nathan Peterman ahead of Blake Bortles.
That's right.
9 spots ahead.
That's right. And I'm with them.
Obviously, you better watch the film a little closer.
No.
I did, Tony, I mean, every quarterback in high school football would have hit some of those throws last week. I watched it.
Sims, are you sweating at all? Because I
will be sweating if I see Tony in person. I promise you I'll be watching
Sims is right. Sims is right about this. He's got Sean Mannion 6 spots ahead of Blake Bortles, Baselli.
Dan, he is not right. And first of all, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You wouldn't know how to evaluate any football player.
Wait a minute. Baselli, are you still taking checks from the Jaguars? Yes or no?
That has nothing to do with this conversation.
Yes or no? Answer my question, Baselli. Yes or no? You're taking checks personally from Coughlin to do this infomercial stuff, selling Blake Bortles when we all know he stinks.
I can't confirm or deny that I'm taking
I know it. You've been smoked out, Baselli. I got Baselli. You off cartoon egg. I got you. How many millions are they paying you to be Baghdad Brewski and sell your soul to defend Blake Bortles when you know very well that he stinks? Say it before we get out of here. I want to bully the bully. Baselli, admit on the paycheck that you have from the Jags that Bortles stinks. Say it.
No, he's not great.
Baghdad Baselli!
You can listen to the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugats 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio, and you can watch on ESPNU.
Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.